What would you do if you heard an excavator roaring outside your window at dawn? Would you keep sipping your coffee, or launch your drone and uncover a conspiracy that could burn down an entire community? They said it was just digging for a HOA pond. But when blue flames shot 10 feet into the Texas sky, live streamed to 200,000 viewers, I realized what lies beneath the dirt isn't just dirt. It's a national defense secret the government doesn't want you to find out, and whoever touches it won't walk away the same. Ethan Nakamura, a former NASA engineer, woke up to the soft fog that still blanketed the Texas fields. He held a chipped coffee mug, leaning against the weathered porch railing, inhaling the damp scent of early grass. After leaving NASA, Ethan returned home to watch over the family land, soil that had been guarded through 4 generations. To most neighbors, it was barren land. Dry, rocky ground where not even stray dogs bothered to sniff around, where chickens wouldn't peck for worms. But to Ethan it was memory, a promise. Aunt Ruby's words still echoed in his mind. Never let anyone touch that corner of the ranch, Ethan. There are things that shouldn't be disturbed. That morning, the roar of machinery shattered the peace. A massive yellow excavator, steel teeth gleaming under the pale sunrise, rumbled like a mechanical beast coming alive, its treads crushing wet grass. Karen Sterling, HOA president, stepped out of a white BMW in a pristine white pantsuit, her black heels sinking into the mud without hesitation. Her blonde hair, styled to perfection, did not flinch under the breeze. Vivian was the kind of person whose presence alone made others question if they were wrong. Dig it all up. Karen commanded, her voice sharp. This dirt is a waste of space. We need it to fill the HOA clubhouse pond. Ethan's hand tightened around his coffee mug, trembling just enough for dark coffee to spill onto the concrete. He knew the HOA was moving on Resolution 847B, a beautification project, but something felt deeply wrong. Taking a steady breath, Ethan stepped down the porch, walking toward Vivian and the excavator about to make its first cut into the earth. Karen, this is private property, Ethan said calmly. You have no right to dig here. Karen smiled, cold and practiced, pulling a thick folder from her designer bag. Honey, your signature is right here, consenting to the OA's use of this land. Forgot about that? Ethan's eyes darted to the paper, his heart pounding as he saw his own signature at the bottom. But deep down he knew he had never signed it. In that instant, the excavator roared, lowering its steel bucket, tearing into the earth that had been undisturbed for over 30 years. The engine's growl, the screech of steel on rock, merged with the hammering of Ethan's pulse. Ethan spun around, rushing into the house to grab his laptop, booting up the NASA drone he kept like a lifeline to his old life. This was no longer just a normal morning. And from the moment that bucket struck the earth, the nightmare began. The early morning chill still clung to Ethan's hair as he stood there, watching the excavator rip apart the soil that his family had protected for over 3 decades. His old NASA drone came to life with a comforting whir, its rotors slicing the air gently, pushing a breeze across his face, carrying with it the scent of wet grass and something else. Ethan frowned. This wasn't the usual damp earth smell. It was sharp, sulfurous, like rotten eggs, the distinct odor of hydrogen sulfide gas. He guided the drone upward, its camera capturing the scene below the excavator, a hulking yellow insect, tearing chunk after chunk from the ground, shredding not just soil but memories and secrets buried beneath. On his laptop, Ethan switched on the geomagnetic sensor module, a custom-built tool from his NASA days patched together from spare parts and relentless curiosity. A single beep sounded. Then another, then another. Each beep was steady, measured, like a heartbeat. But it wasn't the heartbeat of any living creature. It was the heartbeat of something beneath the earth. Data scrolled across his screen, waveforms spiking with abnormal amplitudes, outlining the shape of a large, cylindrical metallic structure directly under the excavation site Vivian had chosen. Ethan's breath caught. This wasn't a water main. It wasn't a civilian gas line. This was a military-grade pipeline, emitting a powerful electromagnetic signature, exactly like the emergency fuel supply lines he'd heard whispers of during late nights at NASA. And now, someone was digging straight into it. The drone dipped lower, capturing a clear image of Vivian Sterling standing with her hand outstretched, ordering Diesel to keep digging, her mouth forming words like progress, HO budget, community development. She didn't notice the handheld gas detector on Diesel's belt blinking red. Shrieking a piercing alarm. "Diesel, stop! Stop, no!" Ethan shouted, running toward the excavator, laptop still open in his hands, hair whipping back in the breeze. But the roar of the excavator's engine drowned out his voice, and the steel bucket plunged another meter into the trembling earth. Karen turned, her cold smile unwavering. "You're interrupting a community project, Ethan. Don't you get it?" Ethan didn't answer, eyes glued to his laptop screen, where the gas pressure readings climbed higher, the data screaming at him. A gust of wind carried the sharper, thicker scent of gas, rustling through the grass, making Diesel lift his hand to cover his nose, eyes wide as he glanced at the shrieking gas detector. A bead of sweat slid down Ethan's temple as the realization hit him. If they dig just 1 meter deeper, there will be no one left here to argue about HOA rules or property lines. But Karen, with that same stubborn glint in her eyes and a smile that reeked of control, ignored it all. And as the excavator dug deeper once more, what Ethan feared most began to unfold. The excavator's roar continued, biting deeper into the earth that now reeked of a sharp, sulfuric stench. Ethan stood shaking with anger and fear, while Karen, the HO president in her flawless white suit and perfect blonde hair, stood with arms crossed, her eyes sharp as blades. Ethan lifted his laptop, showing her the live data on the screen, where magnetic waveforms danced erratically, gas pressure readings spiking higher with every passing second. "Karen, you're digging into a military pipeline," Ethan shouted, voice trembling but firm. "You don't understand what you're about to unleash." Karen gave a cold smile, pulling a thick folder from her designer bag and tossing it toward Ethan. "Mr. Nakamura, here's the land transfer agreement. Your signature OA's seal, notarized and filed. We are fully within our rights." Ethan glanced down at the papers, fingers brushing over the page, his face darkening when he saw his own signature at the bottom. Deep down, he knew. He had never signed it. At that moment, Diesel, the aging machine operator with lines of experience etched into his face, turned off the excavator and stepped down, eyes filled with concern. "Ethan, I don't want to keep going. The smell, the alarms, my meter's screaming." But Karen snapped her gaze toward Diesel, her voice icy. "You were hired to dig. Dig, I will handle the rest." Diesel hesitated, eyes darting between the flashing red light on his gas detector, Karen and Ethan. Then, with a resigned breath, he climbed back into the cabin, the engine rumbling back to life, vibrating the ground beneath them. Ethan knew there was no time to argue anymore. He opened his phone and started a live stream, his voice shaking but determined. "Everyone, this is Ethan Nakamura. I'm at Meadowbrook Ranch, Texas. The HOA is digging directly into a military-grade pipeline, ignoring every warning. If I'm wrong, this will be proof. If I'm right, the world needs to see this." Immediately, the viewer count ticked up 310 or 50 in seconds. Behind him, the excavator's mechanical groans mixed with the beeping of the gas detector and the Texas wind hissing across the fields. Karen walked closer, leaning in with a condescending smirk. "You think live streaming will save you? You'll be sued for obstructing community development. The HOA will remove you, Ethan." Ethan didn't respond, eyes on his screen. Watching the viewer count climb steadily, 105 and 200 watching live. Suddenly, a deep thump echoed from the ground, shaking the site, dirt exploding into a cloud of dust. Then, a jet of blue flame, nearly 10 feet high, shot into the sky. Screams tore through the site as Diesel leaped from the cabin, rolling away from the machine as the flame hissed like an angry dragon. Karen stumbled back, the confident mask cracking as fear overtook her pale face, eyes locked on the tower of fire clawing at the dawn sky. On the live stream, over 5,000 viewers now watched in horror, comments flooding in. "OMG, what is happening? Call 911 now. Is that a gas pipeline? Who is Karen and what is she doing?" Ethan turned the camera toward Karen, his voice clear. "This is your HOA. This is what happens when warnings are ignored for personal agendas." Sirens wailed in the distance as fire trucks and police cars sped toward the ranch, red and blue lights flickering through the dust. Karen backed away, terror in her eyes as her phone rang, trembling in her hand while she screamed, "Turn off the live stream." Estille play, but Ethan stood firm, the camera capturing the blue flames, the smoke, the reflection of chaos in his sweat-soaked, tear-streaked face. And it was in that exact moment that Ethan's live stream exploded, shared by tens of thousands across America, transforming what was supposed to be a community beautification project into a national emergency unfolding live. The blue flames still roared, twisting like a furious dragon in the Texas morning as thick black smoke curled into the sky, watched in horror by tens of thousands now glued to Ethan's live stream. Sirens wailed closer, red and blue lights slashing through the dust, illuminating Karen's face, pale, tear-streaked, hands trembling around her phone as reality crashed in around her. Ethan stood there, breath ragged, heart pounding, the camera capturing every second of the smoke, the fire, the screams. Suddenly, a thin but firm hand rested on his shoulder. He flinched and turned. Standing behind him was Aunt Ruby, her silver hair framing a face that everyone in town believed had faded into the fog of age. But today her eyes were clear, sharp, unblinking. "Ethan, honey, give me that live stream," Ruby said calmly, holding a worn leather-bound journal that Ethan recognized instantly. It was her 1989 journal. Ruby opened it, flipping through page after page of neat handwriting, black ink still crisp. October 15, 1989. They said it was a water main. But why the radiation suits and military escorts? October 20, 1989, they dug at night, cemented the site, marked coordinates. November 1st, 1989, they left quietly, but I know what they buried isn't water. Ruby held the journal out to Ethan, her eyes fierce. "Ethan, I was never confused. I was pretending." Ethan froze. Ruby took a deep breath, turning to face the camera live streaming to tens of thousands. "My name is Ruby Nakamura. I have been a CI operative since 1987, assigned to monitor espionage threats and protect critical defense infrastructure in this region." Karen, standing near the fire, her carefully crafted image crumbling, stared in shock at Ruby. She stammered, You're lying. I didn't know about any pipeline. I just wanted to dig for the HOA." Ruby's gaze locked onto Karen, her voice low but commanding. "You knew exactly what you were digging for. I have proof, photos, maps, license plates of military vehicles that were here the night they buried the pipeline. You took money from foreign investors, gave them the exact coordinates, trading national security for cash to cover your bankruptcy." Ethan connected his laptop to the drone, streaming images of geomagnetic scans, footage of Karen accepting cash from 3 men in dark suits, and the recording of Karen's voice saying, "No matter what happens, we have to finish this. The money's been transferred, and they don't care if someone gets hurt." The live stream erupted, comments flying. "Is this real? She's CIA. Karen sold pipeline locations. This is espionage. OMG, this is bigger than I thought." Ruby squeezed Ethan's hand, her voice softening. "Now, Ethan, we can't turn back. They've hit the pipeline, triggering federal alarms. If we don't stop this, thousands could die." Ethan nodded, determination lighting in his eyes. He turned the camera toward Karen, now collapsed by the roadside, her phone fallen from her hand, her eyes hollow as she watched the fire rage on. In that moment, the livestream hit 50,000 viewers, as America began to awaken to a spy scandal in the heart of Texas, all starting from a HOA's plan to dig a pond. The livestream surged past 50,000 viewers, comments flooding in like a river as the blue flame roared on the Texas soil, devouring the air with a hiss that sent chills through every witness. The fire engines and police sirens wove through the wind, flashing red and blue across Karen's tear-streaked, pale face as she clutched her phone, shaking, the reality finally sinking in. Ethan gripped the drone controller, eyes locking with Ruby, the grandmother whose hidden CIA identity had shocked him and the world. She turned to Ethan, her voice clear and unwavering. "Ethan, this isn't just about digging up dirt anymore. This is a systematic sabotage operation, and Karen is just one small part." Ethan nodded, opening his laptop, pulling up geomagnetic and satellite data linked to the sensors he had built during his final days at NASA. Numbers flickered across the screen, 3 bright red markers blinking on a map across Texas and neighboring states. Ruby pointed at the map, her voice low. "These are the 3 other sites Karen's network is targeting. These aren't ordinary HOA projects. These are right over the emergency fuel pipelines connecting critical military installations." Ethan remembered the sleepless nights at NASA, the whispered conversations about underground fuel lines designed to keep military bases operational during national emergencies. If those 3 sites were breached or destroyed, we wouldn't just lose pipelines. We'd lose a critical defense backbone for the southwestern United States. Karen, slumped by the roadside, lifted her teary eyes, stuttering. I didn't know. They told me it was for development. They just wanted the coordinates for projects." Ruby's gaze locked onto Karen, cold and sharp. "You knew exactly what you were giving them. I have evidence, photos, maps, license plates of the military trucks from the night they buried those pipelines. You took money from them, Karen, and they aren't real estate investors. They are foreign operatives under industrial espionage fronts flagged by the U.S. Treasury." Ethan flipped the livestream camera to show the drone footage, black SUVs parked near the 3 other sites, equipment cases unloading geomagnetic scanners. Karen shaking hands with shadowy men in dark suits, accepting cash-filled briefcases. An audio clip of Karen's voice saying, "I don't care what's under there. I need the money to save my company." The livestream exploded to 80,000 viewers, people calling hotlines, reporting suspicious digging operations near their neighborhoods. One viewer typed, "I live near Tucson, Arizona. There's a farming project digging here too. Looks just like this." Another, "In Colorado, they've been surveying land for weeks. This is the same thing." Ruby nodded, determination burning in her eyes. "One need this information out, Ethan. It's the only way to stop them." Ethan looked into the camera, his voice steady. "If you're watching this and see any suspicious digging near your home, especially on abandoned roads, empty lots, or farmlands, report it immediately. We're not just protecting property, we're protecting national security." FBI sirens wailed, black UVs rolled in, federal emergency teams in fire, resistance suits moved to secure the scene. Ruby turned back to Karen, her voice softer, lined with the exhaustion of carrying secrets for decades. "This is what happens when greed meets ignorance, Karen. Now the truth will come out." Karen broke down, sobbing, as FBI agents approached, handcuffing her, walking her away under the gaze of tens of thousands watching live. At that moment, the livestream crossed 100,000 viewers, transforming into an unprecedented event as an industrial espionage ring was exposed live from the Texas plains. Thanks to a man with an old NASA drone and a grandmother who had once served her country in silence. The livestream soared past 100,000 viewers, each second bringing thousands more as the blue flame hissed across the Texas soil, burning away 30 years of buried secrets in real time for the world to witness. Karen, now handcuffed, mascara streaking down her pale cheeks, stared blankly at the crowd, the camera lights, and the countless phones raised to capture her downfall. The sirens of the FBI, police, and fire engines melded with the wind, the roar of the flame, and the soft, shuddering sobs of Karen, a woman who once believed she could control everyone with smiles, paperwork, and HOA authority. Ruby stood firm, her eyes locked on Karen. Ethan held his phone steady, zooming in on Karen's face as the viewer count climbed past 150,000 on the livestream. Karen looked directly into the camera, lips trembling. I just wanted to save my company. I was drowning in debt. I lost everything. They promised money. I didn't know who they really were." Ruby stepped forward, her voice both soft and piercing. "Karen, greed makes people blind to the truth. But the truth remains, and when it surfaces, it burns away every lie." A tear rolled down Karen's cheek, dropping onto the scorched earth beneath her feet, heated by the leaking pipeline. She glanced at Ruby, then Ethan, then directly into the camera, where hundreds of thousands of eyes watched her. "I'm sorry, I didn't know it would come to this. I just wanted to live." 200,000 viewers now watch Karen's collapse, witnessing the reality of a once proud president crumbling under the weight of justice. In that moment of silence, Ruby turned to Ethan, nodding softly, her eyes reflecting resolve and a wary sadness. "We've kept these secrets long enough, Ethan. It's time the world knows." Ethan tightened his grip on the phone, lifting the camera higher, his voice clear, steady. "You are witnessing the truth. This isn't just a land dispute or a corrupt HOA or an accidental fire. This is an international espionage ring, a conspiracy to sabotage America's defense infrastructure exposed right here, right now." The blue flame continued to burn, but now it was a flame of truth, illuminating screens across America. Comments flooded in. "I can't believe what I'm seeing. Karen sold our security for cash. Thank you, Ethan and Ruby, for exposing this. How do we protect our communities from this?" Karen was led away, the flashing lights reflecting off her handcuffs, her footsteps heavy, leaving behind the ambitions, lies, and plans she once thought she could control. The livestream peaked at 200,000 viewers. News crews began to arrive, cameras rolling, reporters questioning stunned neighbors who stood frozen, having witnessed the truth unfold in front of them. In that moment, Ethan and Ruby stood side by side, the camera still rolling, the wind rustling through Ruby's silver hair, across Ethan's sunburnt face. They knew they had just changed the course of history for their land, and set the stage for a new beginning for their entire community. After the moment Karen was led away, the live stream continued, the camera trembling slightly as Ethan lowered it and turned to Ruby. The wind swept through, carrying the sharp scent of burnt gas mixed with the fading freshness of the grass after truth had shaken the earth. Ruby placed her hand on Ethan's shoulder, her eyes softening, her voice raspy yet firm. "You did well, Ethan. You didn't just save this land, you saved people out there from a disaster they didn't even know was coming. Ethan turned the camera on himself, looking straight into the lens, his voice low, steady. "My name is Ethan Nakamura. I was fired from NASA for standing up against wrongdoing. Today I stood up again, not for myself, but for all of us." This isn't just a story about a corrupt HOA, a woman who sold out her honor, or a leaking pipeline. This is a story about courage, about truth, and it's a reminder that sometimes the most ordinary people can stand up to protect their community. The livestream closed at over 210,000 viewers, with millions of shares and news outlets covering the story in the days that followed, turning Ethan and Ruby into the center of a nationwide investigation. Karen and her co-conspirators were arrested, the espionage network exposed, and the sabotage sites in Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico were shut down thanks to viewers who reported suspicious activity in their neighborhoods. NASA sent an official letter reinstating Ethan's honor, offering him his job back with a new position and a formal apology for the past. But Ethan simply smiled and quietly declined. Instead, Ethan and Ruby founded the Ruby Nakamura Community Science Center, right on the land the HOA once tried to take. The center became a place to train locals to identify sabotage signs in critical infrastructure, teach drone operation and using technology to protect neighborhoods, host community storytelling events, where residents shared how they once stood up against wrongdoing. On the opening day, Ethan stood at the center's gate, holding Ruby's hand, surrounded by neighbors who once stayed silent under the HA's pressure, now attending with grateful eyes. Ruby smiled, her voice warm. "When I was young, I thought my job was to protect this country. Now, I realize protecting your country starts with protecting the community you live in." Ethan looked up at the clear Texas sky, where drones flown by local children glided through the breeze, no longer carrying missions of secrecy or war, but symbols of hope and vigilance in a community that had awakened. "We kept this land not just because it belonged to our family, but because it's where we chose to live responsibly." And so, it ended, not with sadness, but with a new beginning for a courageous community, where truth is protected, and secrets no longer stay buried beneath the ground. The camera lingers on the Ruby Nakamura Community Science Center, bathed in the soft glow of a Texas sunset, the last rays of light catching on the freshly painted sign and the glass windows reflecting a new beginning. In the background, children's laughter echoes as they race drones across the open sky, their voices full of curiosity and hope. Parents and neighbors gather, sharing stories and smiles, the weight of fear replaced by a quiet determination to protect what matters. Ethan stands beside Ruby, watching the drones trace gentle arcs through the sky. The flag above the center flutters softly in the breeze, a reminder that patriotism is not only in grand gestures, but in the quiet choices we make to care for our communities every day. Ruby looks up at Ethan, her silver hair catching the last light of the day, her eyes filled with a wisdom forged over decades of keeping watch over secrets too heavy to share. "We can't control everything that happens in this world," Ruby says softly, "but we can choose to stand up when it counts." Ethan nods, his eyes following a drone as it soars higher, carrying with it the silent promise that truth will not be buried, not here, not anymore. As the camera slowly pans out, the sun slips below the horizon, leaving behind the warm glow of porch lights and the hum of voices alive with purpose. This is how we build a community worth protecting. This is how we honor the truth. This is how we start again. What did you think of this story? Have you ever witnessed wrongdoing in your community and felt powerless? Or were you someone who found the courage to stand up and protect the truth? Share your story in the comments below. You never know who might find strength from your experience to stand up for what is right in their own lives. If this story moved you, give this video a like to help share this truth with others who need to hear it. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next true stories we share here. We are not just building a YouTube channel, we are building a community of people who care about protecting one another and speaking up when it matters most. Share this video with your friends and loved ones so they too can learn how to protect their communities, protect the truth, and stand up when it counts. Thank you for spending your time with us today. We will see you in the next story.